Could the only guaranteed fund within the TSP, namely the G-Fund, be completely gone? Let's find out. I've had a few articles come across my desk recently, and both of them are on the G-Fund. The G-Fund, I've been having a lot of questions regarding the G-Fund. What's the future of the G-Fund? And I figured I'd talk a little bit about it and what it's looking like in the future. There's a lot of people, a lot of doomsayers saying that the G-Fund could be completely gotten rid of. I don't know if that's a reality. However, what I'm reading, it's a possibility, at least a possibility of the return you could receive dropping very low, not necessarily the G-Fund being completely gotten rid of. But I downloaded two articles, one off the Washington Post and another off of Federal Times. So these aren't just, random news agencies. These are quality news sites that report the facts. But the first one, came out in March, and it talked about the G-Fund's return would drop to nearly zero under House plan. Basically, what's happening is the House Budget Committee is saying that securities within the G-Fund are not subject to risk of default, okay, which is true because payment of principal and interest is guaranteed by the U.S. government. But the reason that they're actually thinking about dropping the return of the G-Fund is they're saying the interest rate paid is equivalent to a long-term bond. As a result, those who participate in the G-Fund are rewarded with a long-term rate on what is essentially a short-term security. So essentially they're saying that the rate of return that the G-Fund earns, which is around 2 to 3%, is higher than it should be based on the liquidity you have and how easy it is to move out of the G-Fund into other funds. Okay. They had a TSP spokesperson quoted in this article. Her name is Kim Weaver. She says, obviously they oppose this change. She said the change would drop the fund's monthly rate of return to 0.01%, which, quote unquote, would make the G-Fund virtually worthless for TSP investors as account growth would not keep up with inflation. Well, in reality, the G-Fund doesn't necessarily keep up with inflation anyways because inflation runs about 3 to 4%. The G-Fund runs about 2 to 3%, so it's already a little bit behind. But that being said, if it dropped to 0.01%, there'd be little reason other than just absolute safety to invest within it. And I see here, the G-Fund is the largest fund, has the most amount of money out of any fund in all of the TSP. And the reason is because people want safety. Well, if that's gone, what's going to happen? Well, a lot of people thought that happened in March, and the House met in July, and it wasn't brought up again. So a lot of people thought, hey, it's not going to be a reality. It was just something that was talked about. It's not something that's actually going to happen. But Federal Times came out with this article, and it says, with a looming budget battle set to command Congress' attention this fall, Congress, basically the Fed's running out of money, or the federal government's running out of money, so they're going to have to make some cuts. And so Congress is going to have to deal with that budget battle. But it says the Federal Retirement G-Fund may once again have a target painted on it. They have some people talking here. In order for people to feel that TSP is a reliable investment, Congress has to declare the TSP off limits as a source of revenue. That's the ETAC chair, Clifford Daling. That's what he's saying. Basically, he's saying he doesn't think that the TSP G-Fund should have a lower return. However, in the Washington Post article, they reported that, let's see here, the TSP would save up to $32 billion for the federal government over 10 years. So if you think that the federal government isn't at least contemplating dropping the return of the G-Fund, then I think you may be sadly mistaken. That being said, it wasn't brought up in July, but it says with the clock ticking on appropriations, there's a fear that the G-Fund could soon be back on the chopping block. Federal employees and retirees have long been promised that Congress will not siphon money away from the TSP for other government programs, said the same chairman of the ETAC. But he says tapping the personal retirement savings of federal employees, retirees, and members of the military to offset spending is simply unacceptable. There's a lot of people that agree with that. However, Republicans in the House, may disagree with that. And so on September 30th is when funding for the federal government is set to run out. So they've got a decision that they have to make soon. And, it's possible that the G-Fund, as we know it, could drop. But what are your thoughts? Do you have any questions or thoughts on the G-Fund dropping? Do you think it could happen? Do you think it won't happen? I'm of the opinion that I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to drop the G-Fund's return because of how many people are in it. However, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. If you think it is or not, leave a message in the comments. Ask any questions, any videos you'd like to see in the future. Like, share, comment on the video, and we look forward to doing more. Once again, this has been Cooper with FedRetirementPlanning.com. Thanks for watching.